Welcome to CarNext. In this video, we're going to answer most of the common questions that people have when it comes to buying a used electric vehicle. When it comes to electric vehicles, most people have the same common questions. Things like, what about the battery status? What should I be looking for? Are there any particular hidden tips and tricks that I need to know when it comes to buying an electric vehicle? The most common question that people have about electric vehicles usually hovers around the battery. Do I need to replace it like I would with my cell phone? Do I need to worry about it? Is it going to degrade? Now, the thing is that all electric vehicles these days use lithium-ion battery cells, very similar to what you have in your cell phone. However, in a car, the chemistry is different, the cycle life is different, and how you use it is actually different. Matter of fact, most car companies have very extensive warranties, most cases up to 7 or 8 years. However, things like degradation is real, it does happen. However, it's not like a cell phone. You don't have to replace the battery after 2 years. Now at CarNext, they do full diagnostics on their cars, so they check not only the high voltage battery pack, that is the one that sits underneath the vehicle that drives the car, as well as the 12-volt battery that sits in the front of the vehicle, and that powers the power electronics and all that stuff. So you don't have to worry about it, it's all been looked after for you. CarNext has a variety of different electric vehicles, however they do specialize in Teslas, so again, the powertrain warranty is taken care of for you, you don't have to worry about it. These cars are as bulletproof as they come. Now buying an electric car is actually no different than any other car, but you have to do your own due diligence. You have to make sure that things like, the trim is okay, there's no damage to the car, rips or anything like that in the seats. But the nice thing about CarNext is literally every vehicle that's brought in is fully documented and photographed in this photo booth. So on the website, you will see every potential area that might have a little nick or scratch or anything like that, so you know exactly what you're buying before you even set foot in the showroom. One of the biggest differences you'll probably notice with a lot of electric vehicles is things like flush door handles, very important for aerodynamics. Now, a lot of cars are coming with this now, so obviously during your inspection process, you want to make sure that things like the door handles are operating correctly and not binding. If the electric vehicle that you're interested in has a motorized charge port, such as this Tesla, this is something you'll want to inspect, make sure that it operates correctly. So just activate it by whatever means are necessary and make sure that it operates correctly, that if there's any LED lights, make sure that's lit. Also inspect the charge port itself, make sure there are no broken pins or anything like that. And of course, make sure that it closes properly. You will also want to inspect things like the trunk. In this case, this particular Model 3 has a power activated trunk. So just press the button, make sure that the lift gate moves up and out of the way, not binding on anything. All of the struts look good, there's no kinks in the cable. When you're satisfied, just press the button to close it and make sure that it closes and latches properly. When looking at used EVs, you should also inspect under the hood. You want to check for a few things. In this case, a Tesla has a front trunk. Not all EVs have this, but things like a tow hook, you'll need that in case of an emergency. If the car has any plastic cladding, you may want to remove an access panel because this is an area that you can inspect things like the 12-volt battery, which is located right here. Again, in most cases here with CarNext, they will do full diagnostics, so you really don't have to worry about anything. But this is one of the common areas, just like a gasoline car, that after a few years, you may have to replace the 12-volt battery. If there's any intakes here for the HVAC or the air conditioning system, you want to make sure that there's nothing in here, leaves or otherwise and stuff, just clean that out. But otherwise, there is no maintenance really to do in here. Oh, well, there is one thing. Windshield washer fluid. Yeah, check that. But that's about most of the consumables you ever find on an electric car. Maybe windshield wipers, tires obviously, but yeah, that's literally the only fluids you put in a car. Close the hood nice and gentle. Most cars are aluminum hoods these days, so gentle presses, never slam them. Every car that CarNext sells comes with a full safety certificate. It's required. Things like tires are inspected, your brakes are inspected, suspension's inspected, nothing to worry about. However, sometimes these Tesla Model 3s comes with a aero cap cover. This is actually a hubcap, and they're removable. So you might want to inspect it. So just give it a gentle tug all the way around. Once you have the cover off, you'll want to inspect a few things. Make sure that the spokes on the wheels, there's no cracks or anything like that, no loose lug nuts. By the way, if you're curious, 129 foot-pounds of torque on these lug nuts. By the way, if you happen to see just a tiny bit of surface rust on the rotors, that is completely normal with electric vehicles. When you let off the accelerator, the motors turn into a regenerative braking system. It helps slow the car down and stop it. And in the case of a Tesla Model 3 standard range or rear-wheel drive cars, they will have these plastic covers, so just make sure that the clips are not broken or anything like that. This one's in good shape. And just clip it back onto the car and you're good to go. Switching to the interior of your EV of choice, you'll want to do an inspection as well. You'll want to check things like passenger and driver seat controls. If the car has electric power seats, you'll want to Double check all of these buttons, run them through the full range of motions, and make sure that everything is operating correctly. If the car has manual seats, again, use the manual controls, exercise it through the full range of motions, and don't forget, check the passenger side as well. You'll also want to inspect a few things such as the headliner, make sure that there's no rips or tears. Things like the visors, check that the vanity lights, if it's equipped with lights, all work correctly. Make sure that they move in the full range of motion that you need, back and forth. Check all your lights, safety hazards. You don't have to worry about that so much because, again, that's part of the safety certificate. Check that the steering wheel is working, all the buttons, all of your stalks, so things like indicators for the blinkers, your windshield wipers, those types of controls, compartments and the like. Make sure everything's operating correctly. If the car comes equipped with wireless chargers, such as this Tesla does, bring your cell phone, put it on there, and make sure that it charges correctly if it's equipped with wireless charging capabilities. Sometimes with used cars, things like glove boxes break, it happens. Check for that. Yeah, this one's operating just fine. If the EV that you're interested in also has a moonroof or sunroof, whatever you want to call it, make sure you run it through its motions, make sure that it opens and closes, no binding, no leaks, pretty important. This Tesla has all glass, so we don't have to worry about that, but it's definitely something you want to double check. But one of the common things that people overlook when looking at cars is to inspect things like the door seals. So all of this stuff here around the doors, all the way in here, and around the door seals should always be inspected. Check for things like splitting, cracking, anything coming loose. You know, in the wintertime, sometimes the cold really makes the adhesive brittle, so underneath the doors here, this little door seal has a tendency to get unstuck. So if that's the case, it can be stuck back on. But the nice thing about door seals, they're not terribly expensive, so they can be easily replaced if need be. Also goes without saying, you should also check your window operation. Make sure that they work properly, up and down. Yeah, this car just had a bath, that's why the windows are wet. Don't forget to check the folding mirrors. Anything mechanical in the car should always be checked. Rear seats, if they have 60-40 splits, make sure they fold down, nothing's binding, and all the latches work correctly. Check seat belts, middle, everything's looking good. Every electric vehicle comes with what's called a mobile connector. In this case, we have one here from a Hyundai Kona. This part here plugs into the wall, so you have your standard 120 volt connector there. You'll have a display screen, so make sure you plug this into the wall, make sure that it lights up and everything is showing correctly. This is the part that plugs into the car. Now, this connector here is called a J1772. This is standard here in North America. So inspect it, make sure the pins are not broken, plug the whole thing into the car, make sure it starts charging, and that's the way you inspect a mobile connector like this. Every Tesla comes with its own mobile connector. In this case here, they have this little bag with a little bit of Velcro on the bottom. So when you put it in the back of the car, it doesn't move around. This is Tesla's mobile connector. And it has this part here that plugs into the car. Again, just like anything else, make sure you inspect the end, that there's no broken pins. There is a button on here, so if you press that while this is energized into the wall, it should open the charge port flap on the car. This is the other end of Tesla's mobile connector, and it has a removable pigtail. And this one here comes with 120 volt. Every Tesla comes with a 120 volt connector. You can buy other ones on Tesla's website. So if you have a connection such as a stove plug, or maybe a dryer plug, or maybe even an RV camp park plug, you can actually buy these and they're just interchangeable. So it gives you the ultimate in flexibility. Tesla mobile connectors don't have a screen, but the Tesla logo lights up in sequence in green lights. So that tells you that it's operating correctly. Again, check it with the inside of the car, make sure that it's charging correctly. Every Tesla comes with one of these adapters. This is called the Tesla to J1772 adapter. So on this end here, you have the Tesla proprietary connector. Again, inspect it, make sure you have no broken pins. And on this end, you have the J1772. So just take a public charger such as this, you click it in, plug it into the car, and you can charge on public charging stations. Pro tip for you, when you're charging in public stations, to release this from the car, sometimes the adapter gets left behind. Here's what I do. I press on the top button once, and that will deactivate the charging mechanism, and then you can pull the whole thing out, and then finally take the plug out. Don't lose this connector. If this is your first electric vehicle purchase, I highly recommend before you take delivery of your car, to consider your charging options at home. Now, if you live in an apartment or a condo complex, that can be a bit of a challenge. However, you do have public chargers available to you. You can charge on 120 volt, but it's very painful. These are large batteries. What I recommend is a 240 volt circuit. Anywhere from 30 amps to 48 amps is mostly sufficient. In most cases, it's up to 10 times faster. Your other option is what we call level 3 or fast DC charging. You've heard terms like supercharging. Well, that's for Teslas. Other cars can use things like Electrify Canada, Petro-Canada, Flow. Those are all fast DC chargers, so you do have options. One of the best things about owning an electric vehicle is because you can charge at home, your costs are going to drop. In most cases, about 90% compared to what you're paying for in fuel on a gasoline car. If the EV that you're interested in has had any modifications, say for example, suspension related, like a lowered suspension, maybe springs or something, double check, make sure that it's had an alignment, otherwise you could end up with some uneven tire wear. When it comes to fit and finish, well, there is no such thing as a perfect car. There's always little variations in vehicles. So when it comes to trim work, that can be very easily corrected. Sometimes they just press it back in, unclip it, put it back. Anything more extreme than that, such as a door panel out of alignment, that can usually be corrected by a body shop visit. Now, if you're looking at a Tesla, you'll want to inspect things like the autopilot cameras. There are several in the car. There's one in the rear trunk. There are 2 cameras, one on each side here, 2 in the repeaters by the blinkers, and then there are 3 forward-facing cameras in the glass. Make sure that there's no scratches on the glass, loose parts, or anything like that. If you're considering a Tesla with a premium white interior, I'm going to give you a few tips. First of all, if you're in the habit of always wearing dark jeans or dark clothing, anything that has potential for dye transfer, well, the reality is you are going to get some of that, especially on the driver's side seat. However, there are a few things you can do to mitigate some of that. First of all, clean the seats anytime you wash the car. Get in the habit of doing that. Products like Simple Green, Spray 9, even some isopropyl alcohol go a long way to keeping the seats clean. But the best thing you can do, especially if you're buying a brand new car, is to ceramic coat the seats. Yes, there are ceramic coats for flexible seats. Doing that will protect the seats for a good long time and really help prevent dye transfer from happening long term. Just a few words about Tesla in general. If you're shopping for one of these cars, they are not like other car manufacturers. See, most car manufacturers wait for a new model year to introduce new features. Tesla does not operate like that. Yes, they do have model years, however, they don't wait to introduce new features. They will change things every 3 months. In this case, this is a 2021 Tesla Model 3. Things like the interior center console has changed design. They've added things like the heat pump. They will change the wheels. Again, every 3 months they will change things. If you're curious to see what car features are in the car that you're interested in, please talk to one of your CarNext representatives and they'll give you the full details as to what the changes are. A quick word about drivetrains. When it comes to Model 3 or even Model Y for that matter, they share the same drivetrains. Talking about the motors here specifically. Internally at Tesla, they're rated for 1.6 million kilometers, so you really don't have to worry about it. They're pretty bulletproof. If you are looking at an older Model S or even a Model X for that matter, they use an older motor design. It might be a good idea for you to check with Tesla service to make sure that those cars have a clean bill of health. I hope this video was informative and answered most of the common questions you may have about buying a new or used electric vehicle. If you have any additional questions, please reach out to CarNext. Their website is carnex.ca. Thank you for watching.